In Blessed Sacrament, there were loads of military officers, but you had to present both sides, and that's a deficiency today. A priest that thinks he's progressive is a peacenik only, and a priest who thinks he's orthodox and more traditional only presents the just war theory. So they're both wrong. So that's a constant tension in teaching and preaching. As a priest, you got to give the whole truth as best you can based on the gospel. Not interested in your side. It's like years ago they used to think black people had smaller brains. Just think of the nonsense that caused. They're the same, absolutely the same persons as we are. But we didn't put it into practice. And when Jesus was, as a Jewish rabbi, was wandering around Israel, always walking, he had no other means of transportation, he scandalized the entire Jewish nation, which he came to give new light to. He scandalized the hell out of them because he always had women in his company. Before Jesus, there were groups of prophets and pseudo-prophets and faith healers and all kinds of groups of men wandering all around and ripping off the people or not ripping them off. Some were very holy groups. All men. Jesus had loads of women in his company at all times. And in the early church, even St. Paul left women as leaders of the community. They didn't have ordained people. So to talk about the ordination of women is sort of antediluvian. We're going to be in a church in which there are no priests because everybody's a priest. So that's a problem that's slowly come to our attention. Of course, I'm teaching a course in it now, so I'm hot to trot on the subject. But it's an important view. And that's the way theology sort of runs. You sort of get into God made everybody equal, so therefore you had to be an abolitionist, or now a person of affirmation because of the harm done to black people for 400 years and the harm done to immigrants of all kinds by our white Protestant ancestors, and the sort of xenophobia, which is imitative of the Roman Empire, of so many American middle-class people today. I mean, their great-grandfather came from Italy. Even if their great-grandfather came on the Mayflower, this was an Indian nation. And we took it from them. No matter, everybody admits that today. So trying to fight for justice and racial rights and racial equality is very difficult, And I've been facing it for 50 years in both black and white communities. And and here's the big temptation, after you're in a parish for a while and you get to know the people well and their families and their kids, and there's so many incredibly fabulous people, even holy people by the dozens, it gets a little bit more difficult each Sunday to lay the gospel on them. You'd like to soften it a little. But if you're going to be a real witness to Jesus, you can't your conscience won't let you do it. But the temptation is overpowering. And then when you add the fact that we're forced to be celibates, which is a scandal, we're forced, you must sign a promise the night before you ordain a deacon that you will not marry. Even our church, that's as far as we can go. You can't make somebody chaste. And you can't, sexuality is so deep. I mean, we could commit loads of faults, even though we would promise the church not to marry. We could commit lots of faults afterwards with women if we're heterosexual and with men if we're homosexual. So it's one of the heavy duties of life because everybody that's baptized is equal. When I say equal, I mean total egalitarian, way beyond Thomas Jefferson's dreams or the French Revolution. And if you read the Acts of the Apostles, we are the only real communists there are. You know, because everybody according to their... Karl Marx stole that slogan, everybody's ability according to everybody's needs, that was quoted against Obama this week. That, all the Catholics and Protestants in the country should have gotten angry, because that's what we're supposed to be doing, redistributing the wealth. And since the government can never do it right, never has, and you can't cite Greece and Rome because those cultures were built on, for every citizen, there were 4 slaves. They weren't black slaves, but they were slaves. So they're no example. And we're the best example, the founding fathers, but that's way beneath the church's vision and demand. But you'd never know it from 2,000 years of Catholic Church history. And one of the worst monarchs in history have been pope after pope after pope. Not just moral weakness when they had mistresses and all that, but they had an army, they had a navy, they had their own governance, all the middle section of Italy, the Papal States. So Mark Twain was right. We haven't even put Christianity, or especially the lasting part of it, Catholicism, into practice. So I don't know why it was so. And then, of course, the people were so naive when the sex abuse scandal came along. They just couldn't believe it, and they didn't get it, even though they helped it, because they had put these celibate males on a pedestal, and they just couldn't believe that this holy man, which we're not. That's the Far Eastern idea. A holy man who has a red robe, no hair, cut a Nazarene haircut, and begs at the end of the village for rice every day. There's no such thing as a holy man in our church. But that's what they made us into. So both the clergy and laity, of which there should be neither, were all the same. We helped, all of us participated, no matter how shocked you are, pretend to be, now how you want to hear about it, a group of Catholic people, we promoted it, because we didn't stick with the gospel. We haven't put Christianity or Catholicism into practice. I do, Rome.